Good morning from sunny Banff in northeast Aberdeenshire, and it's very bright and cheerful outside. There's a bit of noise going on, so I'm not sure if this is going to pick that up. Parked in a car park by a rugby field, one of my favourite spots, near Duff House, and they're doing renovations there, and that's what that noise is in the background, lots of sawing and digging and things like that. And there are a lot of dog walkers turning up in the car park, even as I speak to you, although it's quite late in the morning now. But that's all right, we'll see what we can do. So this is the next van tour with its second stage fittings and such like. Let's see how we go. Okay, let's start with my space age cab. As you all know, this is a fully electric vehicle. That comes with lots of connectivity and such like. I mean, all cars nowadays seem to be coming with that, but I think these electric vehicles are even just a little bit ahead of some of those. You can see there a brake pedal, but for anybody who's familiar with EVs, you will understand that one of the main things for preserving power in the battery is that when you release the accelerator pedal, you get a regeneration action, a little bit like a, what's that old thing we had in the bikes? Dynamo type of situation, which puts a little bit of power back into the battery. And depending on how hilly it is, that can actually be quite remarkable. So going uphill you might use some, but going downhill, if you take your foot off the accelerator, you get quite a good regen on it, usually as much as you've used and sometimes a little bit more. Anywho, these are the surrounds I'm in sunny Banff. As you can see, it's quite a lovely spring sort of day, and it's the second day in a row without, well, there was a little bit of precipitation last night, but very, very little really, so I'm very grateful for that. Hetty's got some company now. She's got the ewe and the sheepdog with her, and my Cooper there. This is additional stuffing for the walls. I haven't entirely completed my insulation yet, although I have to say what I've done so far has proven itself to be quite remarkably successful. Apart from the very, very frosty nights, I've really been very comfortable, and I have a heater to combat those. So, you know, standard seating, all the usual sort of things that you might expect. But lots and lots of bells and whistles on there, which I have yet to explore and may never explore, to be quite frank with you. There's lots of storage above in the cabin, which when I get myself properly sorted out will be getting utilised. I do have a couple of little things up there. That's the logbook for the grey, which I haven't filled in for a week. I must get on to that. Right, now, as I back up, you will see that it is standard in the UK anyway, and I think a lot of places, unless you request otherwise, to have the double passenger seat. So that's my get through. Ensures a little bit of exercise for me each time I have to go through, but that's all right. I don't mind it. I'm actually getting quite good at it. Now that I've learned to lower my head sufficiently and not keep banging it on the bulkhead bit here. This upper bulkhead actually has storage in behind which would carry up to 22 kilograms of weight, so it would be very useful storage. I'm ticking and tossing about that because I quite like having a bit of metal. Not everything in here is, surprisingly, is magnetic. That bit is, but that's for future considerations. I don't need that storage at this moment, but there'll come a point if I go full time that will have to be taken into account. So yes, once I've done with my driving for the day and I've found my little place that I want to park, I nip on through here. Now if I turn myself around, that's just to fill in the little gap. My curtain, which you'll see shortly, doesn't entirely go across as it should. These little USB fans are absolutely fantastic. I don't want to be drilling holes and putting windows and roof fans in my van. I want it to be kept as stealth as possible. These work brilliantly. I've got one here and I've got one at the back, so if I'm cooking I can bring the air through here and I can just crack that window just ever so slightly and it does what it needs to do. I'm really impressed with them. Can't recommend them highly enough. I've just got 2 or 3 of these. You'll have seen these in an earlier van tour video, but this siding is what I intend to utilise throughout the van. but we've got to get several stages done beforehand. So excuse the hangings. What I've done is put hangings up here, there and everywhere just to try and tone down all the silver that I'm getting from the reflectix. Now, so if I pull back from here, you can see I've got a side light here. This is in my day couch mode. Just going to bring you out a little. Oh, wrong way. There we go. So this is me in day couch mode. So I can do my sitting there and put my feet up on my little extra thing. This is my make-do bench. I'm going to cover this, and because there's storage involved in that, so that's my extra seat for when I've got visitors, or one of the extra seats. There will be others. That's the quilt which I was gifted for my 30th birthday. It was commissioned by my mother for me in my favourite sort of autumnal colours, and for a long time it lay in a drawer, and now it's finding a purpose. It's actually forming my blackout screen. I can put it right across, peg it up there, and with that little extra towel there, I'm pretty much protected from outside view. So that's grand. You can see one of my crochets there. So this is the side door, of course. So I can sit here, and I've butchered one of my old saris, which was a muslin style of saris. As you can see, it gives me just a little hint of privacy if I'm sitting with the door open, but without actually, buffeting. But it also helps to keep, mainly it's about keeping the flies down in the summer, but it's quite nice. And with the breeze blowing on it, it's all rather romantic. So yes, so I sit here with my feet up on there, particularly in the mornings, having my cuppa. You can't beat that really, can you? Right, on with it, McLean. Oh! So, now we'll swing round. So that is all my bedding. Well, obviously I've got the sheet on the mattress, but that's rolled away underneath this tookie here just now for daytime, and then I just need to pull that out, open it up, and then I've got my full set up, flatten my pillow, and this becomes my bed. It is a little on the narrow side. It's 70 centimetres. I manage quite well on it, but in the long term what I intend to do is put a little lift flap, just 6 inches. Just put that here, and I'll have that extra width for a full-time bed if I need it. So this overbed table with its long leg is tucked in across here just now, and tucked under there. I've got plans. I'm hoping that I can make it, that I can put it lengthwise. So I've got the full length of that surface to utilise at counter height. But additional to that is it means it widens my space here. I can walk through here quite happily, but it is just extruding a little bit, and if I had it so that it was here, then I'd have a little wider space here as well. Now that would be really grand. Yeah. So underneath here, it's hard to see, but is the kitchen table that my sister and I cut down, forming the absolute base for the bottom of the bed. Oh, there we go, you can see it now. It's forming, and then it's forming a cubby so I can put storage underneath there, which is grand. But it's also forming the base for these shelves, which extend right then up to the roof, or the ceiling more specifically. All open at the moment, of course, because if you remember, this is second stage fits and nothing's actually bolted down. And believe it or not, it's all staying in place. Clamps and with bungees, and in fact this one is so well wedged, it's just the weight on it, and it's not going anywhere. It's really solid. Very happy with the arrangement. So this was what I was trying to find out, was how this worked, and the access to these are really good. Originally I was thinking I would put doors on, but I'm quite liking the free access. I will be putting extra shelving in because I'm not utilising the full space, as you can see. So there's lots of adaptation to be done, but I'm liking the way this is working for me, so that's good. Coming out from there, here is the refrigerator, which originally on the first trip, some of you may recall, it was sitting on the floor, and there was a lot of bending and stretching for me to get into the thing, which is not good for my old spine. So This is perfect height. It's an Alpicool dual freezer. That board there, if I wanted to utilise it as a freezer, would go into the centre of the fridge. Let me just give you a little insight, because I know that some of you are actually quite interested in this stuff. There you go. At the moment I'm using it entirely as a fridge, so I took the board out and it keeps it an even temperature across the whole thing. But the board would go in here, and then I can change this side into a freezer. Look how handy that is. And then I've also got a little additional surface if I want it. This is an addition as of this trip. This was the little fold down table that I found when I was walking around with H in Hike. And it's proven its worth. Originally I had it on this side behind me and it didn't really work, but having moved it across to here, I'm thrilled with it. So when the leaf is up, it goes above the pot here. You can have a guess at what that might be. And but it also is a very good seat. So I can have this as a full seating arrangement and the other stool here, and I can have a proper sit-down meal with people if I want to do that. I'm keeping this back corner pretty much like this, because this gives me space for entry and exit. The majority of the time, that is my door. You know how at home you tend to use your back door more than your front door? Some of you anyway. The main reason for me is, well, there's two reasons I do it. The first and foremost is my Rolls later, my fantastic walking machine, is tucked there. So I have to access that through the back door anyway. But, as you'll have noticed, there is a step there. And there's a very good gripping bit on this door. So this is actually safe and solid entry and exit for me if I don't want to be getting my steps out for the side door. So for me, that's grand. If I've got visitors, I'll use the other one. But I like this one very much. When it's wet, that's an issue. So what I've purchased myself is an oversized golf brella. And I can actually put that up and it covers the whole, let me remove this. It covers the area there. And then I can have the door open even if it's raining, as long as there's not a hoolie blowing, of course. Look at that view. I'll often put this curtain up when I'm sitting having breakfast and look out just like that. Isn't it grand? Obviously there's different views depending where I'm parked. Right. Now, coming back. I've mentioned that's my thing. When I'm having my ablutions, the other thing I can do is put my towels and stuff down there. I can put my washing bowl up here, and I can do a full strip down, whatever. You can use your imaginations. So that's grand. Longer term, I may be getting one of those USB shower heads, and I can put a little tray thing, pull down, and have an actual shower on board. So we'll see. Here's the kitchenette, as it stands at the moment. There will be improvements made to that, of course. Those who are watching the blog will have seen all the stories about what this is about. It's held up really well. I'm very pleased with my little temporary repair. I'm very pleased with the AFRI. It's going really, really well. And it's powering the fridge. So that there is the 12-volt lead, and that's why I've got a rug here, because I don't want to keep walking on the lead. That's for the fridge. I've got my dual induction hob. That's plugged in here. I do have a kettle, which I haven't got out just now, but I can put a kettle on here. And of course, I don't very often use both together. I usually just do single pan meals. It would be if I had somebody in and I was doing veggies and stuff, then I would use both hobs, but mostly I don't. And there's my air fryer. Of course, it doesn't sit there for use, and that's where this other table has come in real handy, because I can put this leaf up, I can plug it into the power on board. That's what that is there, 240-volt power on board, which I'll tell you more about shortly. And then I can utilise my air fryer. It could run off the AFRI, but obviously it would use quite a bit of the power off there. Anyway, that's kind of self-explanatory. That will have to get properly solidified, and perhaps a more stronger unit than I've got, because that's proven itself to be a bit like tin foil, that thing. At the moment, this space is a bit fallow. This is the bit that's going to be getting a little bit more development. I've got things hanging and draped and all sorts at the moment, but essentially that's an empty space at the moment. I'm intending to put some cupboards in here, which will become like my wardrobe or they maybe become more kitchen and the wardrobe will come over here. Anyway, that's work in progress there. That's my oil heater, which I've only had to use a couple of times because I've actually been quite comfortable. But it works very well as well. It only draws about 600 to 700 watts, so I do good. And then we're on to the side shelves, and you can see there that's the water. Water's all in there, and I've got 2 bags for filling it with. At the moment the wardrobe is down in the suitcases at the bottom. I've got dried foods and all sorts tucked in there. Utensils and bits and pieces all just up on here at the moment. All the usual sorts of things that one requires for living. And we're back to the side door. So let me see if I can give you a long view. There we go. So yeah, it looks a little untidy, only because it's got open shelves at the moment. When I've got all the siding up and I've decided whether I'm putting doors on or some other form of cover on the shelving. But otherwise, so I've got pretty much a straight walk through. When I get up, I can just walk straight through, which is very good. You can see a little bit now where that does protrude just a little. It's not a problem, I've got plenty of width, but if that was just level with the bedding, that would just give me that little bit more again. And if I stand down the end and give you the long view back. Oh, excuse me. There you go. With the power on board, no, I'll face you for that. Just give me a second. The power on board is particular to these vehicles, and for that I do have to engage the battery as if for driving. It won't operate without the battery actually being engaged. So the only issue I have with that is I still haven't quite figured out, if at all it can be done, how to have the outside lights off altogether. Because I have had a couple of people knocking on my door saying, "You've left your lights on." And I have to explain to them, and it's difficult for people to understand that I'm not drawing on the starter battery, I'm drawing on the main battery. So I have heaps of power, and there is a limit. You can set a limit that you want that the power won't get below, so I can set it, say, at 60 miles or 40 miles. If I know how far it is to the nearest charger, I can just say, okay, say it's only 20 miles. In fact, usually the charger's only about a mile down the road, wherever I parked, so I can set a limit for it so that I'm never stuck without power for driving. So yes, the vehicle itself is my source of power for driving, the heating, the cooking, charging everything up that I want to, charging the power bank specifically, because then they do the charging up and so on. The Bluetti, which is tucked in underneath the shelves here, in behind the bedding, I'm using it now. It was only the 1000 watt. Did me well last year for the main trip, but then I wasn't doing extended periods away from anybody else. This is a bit more extended, but it needed topping up every day because it was running the fridge and only really just made a day, and it was taking a long time. It does take a long time to charge up. When I put it on, I have to leave the main battery on for probably 3 hours, maybe getting up to 4 if I want to go the 100% on it. So by using it only for charging this light, or running this light and charging the phone and the laptop every now and again, I only really need to charge it up once a week. Whereas the Affery is a 2400 watt power bank, and it's got enough in even without, I mean, I've been using it quite heavily and have been topping it up each day, but only because I can, not because I've needed to. It could go for 3 days if I was careful. I could go for 3 days without having to charge it up, so that's really grand. But I do top it up each evening, and it only takes an hour to 90 minutes depending how much I want to top it up. And it's also very quiet, whereas the Bluetti is very noisy. It's got an inverter, external inverter, whereas that one's got an internal inverter. That's for the geeky people who want to know that. So my power on board has been very successful. I'm really loving that. The grey is looking after me in all the awful rain that we've been having. We've been quite sound, so that's grand. Anyway, there you go. I think that's about it for the tour at stage 2. If I haven't answered any questions yet, do please just ask questions. Thank you. Bye.